6 months had passed since first contact. Earth now had observational status in the Galactic Council, which meant humans could watch but not vote on galactic matters. Lieutenant Commander Alan West looked out the window of his small office on Centaurus Prime, the neutral world where the Council had its headquarters. The twin suns were setting, casting purple shadows across the alien landscape. Next door, Dr. Olivia Garcia was working late again, studying Council scientific archives. "Find anything interesting?" Ellen asked, bringing her a cup of coffee. Olivia pushed a strand of dark hair from her face. "Too much to process. These aliens have technology we can't even dream of." As Earth's military attaché, Alan spent his days watching Council military demonstrations. The Council races love to show off their advanced weapons, elegant energy beams, gravity distortion fields, and shields that could stop almost anything. Almost anything. The next day, Admiral Thrix of the blue-skinned Zellurians invited Alan to observe a training exercise. The massive Council ships moved with grace, firing colored energy beams at each other. The beams harmlessly dissipated against shimmering energy shields. "Impressive," Alan said honestly. "But what about kinetic weapons? Physical projectiles?" Admiral Thrix made the chirping sound that Alan had learned was Zellurian laughter. "Such primitive technology poses no threat to modern vessels. We haven't needed protection against solid projectiles for over 3 centuries. "No threat at all?" Ellen pressed. "None whatsoever," Thrix replied, waving a slender blue hand. "Our shields are designed for real weapons, energy-based attacks that civilized races use." The way he said civilized made Alan's jaw tighten, but he kept his diplomatic smile. Later that evening, Olivia burst into Alan's quarters without knocking. "You need to see this," she said, her eyes wide as she handed him her datapad. "I found it in the public archives." Alan scanned the information and felt his blood run cold. Reports detailed aggressive actions by something called the Draxis Imperium along the outer edges of Council space. "Who are the Draxis?" he asked. "A species from the Outer Rim. They're not part of the Council, and from what I can tell, they're extremely hostile." Olivia pointed to the screen. "Look at these reports. They'd been attacking small outposts, testing Council defenses. Have you shown this to the Council representatives?" Olivia shook her head. "That's the thing, they already know. I heard 2 Vorax officers talking about it in the dining hall. They called it minor border disputes and laughed it off." The next week, Earth's application for full Council membership came up for vote. Alan and Olivia weren't allowed in the closed session, but they didn't need to be there to know the result. Ambassador Frank Wilson emerged from the chamber with a tight expression. "They rejected us. 7 votes for, 10 against." "What reasons did they give?" Alan asked. "Our warlike tendencies and dangerous weapons philosophy," Frank said with a bitter smile. "They think we're too primitive and violent to join their enlightened community." That night, in the quiet of his quarters, Alan reviewed everything he had learned about Council defense systems. All were designed to counter energy attacks. None seemed prepared for simple physical projectiles, the primitive weapons humans still used. Olivia's discovery about the Draxis worried him. The Council was dismissing a potential threat because of their technological arrogance. It reminded him of something his grandfather, an old Navy man, used to say: "The most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate." Ellen sent an encrypted message back to Earth Defense Command. "Council defenses have critical weakness against kinetic weapons. Recommend maintaining current armaments despite Council pressure to modernize." As he looked out at the alien stars, Alan couldn't shake the feeling that someday soon, the Council might regret laughing at human weapons. 1 year after humans first met the Galactic Council, things were getting worse. Reports came in almost daily about Draxis ships moving deeper into Council space. On Earth, people started to worry. Captain Laura Miller stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiance, Earth's first true starship built for long journeys. Her orders were simple, Patrol the edge of human space where it met both Council territory and the unknown regions where the Draxis might be. Anything on sensors, Rodney? She asked her sensor officer. Lieutenant Rodney Clark shook his head. Nothing yet, Captain. Just the usual background radiation. Laura wasn't convinced. Something felt wrong. She had been a sailor on Earth's oceans before becoming a space captain, and she had developed what old sailors called a feeling in her bones when storms were coming. And right now, every bone in her body told her a storm was coming. Back on Earth, a council diplomat named Eliar was speaking to the world leaders. There is no need for concern, the tall, green-skinned alien said smoothly. Our defensive technologies are thousands of years ahead of the Draxis. Their ships entering our territory are merely for show, what you humans might call flexing muscles. President George Bailey didn't look convinced. Our intelligence suggests otherwise. The Draxis seem to be systematically testing your defenses, studying how you respond. Eliar made a dismissive gesture with his four-fingered hand. Human intelligence methods are primitive, like your weapons. No offense meant, of course. Admiral Paul Johnson, head of Earth Defense Command, kept his face neutral, but his eyes were hard. He had seen the secret reports from human stealth satellites placed at the edge of the solar system. Those reports told a very different story than what Eliar was saying. Aboard the Defiance, Laura's day suddenly got more interesting. Captain, energy spike at coordinates 227 Mark IV. Rodney called out, his voice tense. Laura moved quickly to his station. Show me. The screen showed unusual energy patterns near Jupiter's orbit, patterns that matched nothing in their database. It's like they're invisible, but not quite, Rodney said. The energy signature suggests cloaking technology. How many ships? Laura asked. Can't tell exactly. Maybe 5, maybe more. Laura didn't hesitate. Send a message to Earth Command and the Council. Tell them we've detected what appears to be a cloaked fleet near Jupiter. Within an hour, she received 2 very different responses. From Earth Command, message received. Maintain position, but be ready to engage if necessary. From the Council representative, your sensor readings are likely malfunctions typical of immature technology. No action required. Laura read the Council's dismissive response twice, then turned to her communications officer. Get me Admiral Johnson directly. That evening, as Admiral Johnson read Captain Miller's report, he made a decision that would later be called the choice that saved Earth. He quietly ordered all Earth Defense Fleet ships to battle stations without informing the Council representatives. Let them think we're just being paranoid humans, he told his staff. Better safe than sorry. At 3:47 hours Earth Standard Time, Laura's crew detected massive energy surges from the cloaked ships. They're powering weapons, Rodney shouted. Before Laura could respond, space itself seemed to tear open as dozens, not just 5. Draxis warships suddenly appeared, dropping their cloaking fields. Their massive dark hulls bristled with weapons unlike anything the Council races used. Simultaneously, emergency signals flooded in from Mars Colony and 3 Council worlds. They were under attack. The storm had arrived, and it was far worse than anyone had imagined. The Council fleet was being torn apart. Their beautiful ships, with their glowing energy shields and elegant designs, were exploding one after another. The proud aliens who had mocked human weapons were dying. On the main view screen of the Galactic Council's Emergency Command Center on Earth, Admiral Thrix watched in horror as another Council battleship exploded. His blue skin had turned pale. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "Our shields should stop any weapon they have." The answer came from the human officer beside him. Colonel Steve Harper pointed to the screen. "They're not using energy weapons. Those are kinetic projectiles, physical objects moving at extremely high speeds. Your shields aren't designed to stop them." The Draxis had studied their enemy well. They knew the Council's weakness and were exploiting it ruthlessly. Massive tungsten rods and depleted uranium projectiles tore through the Council ships like paper. The Council's advanced energy weapons barely scratched the Draxus ships, which had both energy shields and physical armor. In orbit around Mars, the human colony was under heavy attack. 3 Draxus battleships had appeared suddenly and started bombarding the main settlement. On Earth, panic was spreading. The Draxus fleet that Captain Miller had detected was now heading directly toward them. The Council representatives who had laughed at human weapons now came begging for help. "We need your assistance," Gratok the Vorax said, his voice no longer mocking. "The Draxus will be here within hours." President Diane Russell didn't waste time on telling them, "I told you so." Instead, she simply nodded. "The Earth Defense Fleet is ready. We've been prepared for this possibility." Admiral Johnson gave the order. "All ships prepare to engage the Draxus fleet at lunar orbit." The EDF ships took position behind Earth's moon, hiding from the approaching enemy. Among them was the EDF Challenger, commanded by Sam Martinez. His ship carried a special weapon, a massive railgun that could fire a tungsten projectile at a significant fraction of light speed. "Load the main gun," Commander Martinez ordered. "Target their flagship." The Draxus fleet arrived with confidence, their earlier victories having made them bold. They expected the same easy wins they had achieved against the Council ships. They didn't expect any real resistance from the primitive humans. As the massive Draxus flagship moved into position to begin bombarding Earth, Commander Martinez gave the order that would change galactic history. "Fire." The railgun released its deadly projectile with a massive electromagnetic pulse. The tungsten rod, 3 meters long and weighing nearly a ton, crossed the space between the Challenger and the Draxus flagship in seconds. It hit with devastating force. The Draxus shields, designed to stop energy weapons, might as well not have been there. The projectile tore through the ship from front to back, leaving a perfect hole through its core. A moment later, secondary explosions ripped the massive ship apart. On the communication screens, the face of the Draxus commander showed pure shock in the seconds before his ship was destroyed. That was when the rest of the human fleet appeared from behind the moon. 20 ships, all armed with weapons the Council had mocked as primitive: railguns, missiles, and nuclear warheads. "All ships, fire at will," Admiral Johnson ordered. The space between Earth and Moon lit up with explosions as human weapons tore into the Draxus fleet. Unlike the Council races, humans had never abandoned old technology. They had simply made it better, faster, and deadlier. Within hours, the mighty Draxus invasion force was reduced to drifting wreckage. From the orbital station, the Council representatives watched in stunned silence. The primitive humans, with their primitive weapons, had done what the advanced Council fleets could not. They had stopped the Draxus cold. The massive Earth ship Harmony floated silently in deep space. Through its wide viewing windows, Captain Susan Miller watched as the alien vessel approached. The Vexarian ship looked like a giant insect made of metal, with sharp angles and glowing blue lights. "They're almost here," Susan said, fixing her uniform one last time. She was 45, with short brown hair and steady eyes that had seen many challenging situations, but none like this. Today was humanity's first official meeting with the Vexarian Empire. Lieutenant Greg Martinez stood nearby, nervously adjusting his collar. He was younger than Susan, with a friendly face and an easy smile that usually put people at ease. "Remember the protocol," Susan told her crew. "No sudden movements. No showing teeth when you smile. The Vexarians might see it as a threat." Greg nodded but seemed distracted. He kept glancing at the door to his personal quarters. "Something wrong, Lieutenant?" Susan asked. "No, Captain. Everything's fine," Greg answered too quickly. Susan narrowed her eyes, but had no time to question him further. The communication screen lit up, showing the face of a Vexarian. Its skin was dark gray and hard-looking, like armor. Its yellow eyes were large, and its mouth had small mandibles that clicked together when it spoke. "I am Commander Zoltak of the Vexarian Empire," the alien said in a deep, clicking voice. We accept your invitation to board." 20 minutes later, 6 tall Vexarians walked into the Harmony's meeting room. The aliens towered over the humans, standing over 7 feet tall with their exoskeletons, making them look even bigger. Commander Zoltak led them, his body decorated with what looked like battle scars and metal ornaments that probably showed his rank. "Welcome aboard the Harmony," Susan said, stepping forward with her hand extended, then remembering and pulling it back. "We are honored to be the first humans to formally meet the Vexarian people." Zoltak made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are smaller than our reports suggested. How did such soft creatures manage to build vessels that cross the stars?" Susan forced a smile. "We may look different from your people, but humans have many strengths." The meeting continued in the large conference room. The humans explained Earth's history, society, and technology. The Vexarians listened but seemed unimpressed. "Your weapons are primitive," Zoltak said after a presentation on Earth's defensive capabilities. "Your bodies are weak. What do you offer the Vexarian Empire as allies?" "We offer friendship," Susan replied carefully. "Trade. Cultural exchange. We believe different species can learn from each other." Zoltak clicked his mandibles. "Learning is good, but strength is better. The galaxy is dangerous. Weak allies are worse than no allies." Just then, a strange sound came from outside the conference room. A scratching noise, followed by a high-pitched bark. Greg's face went pale. Susan shot him a questioning look, and he shrank in his seat. The door to the conference room slid open. A small, orange and white corgi trotted in, tail wagging happily. It looked around the room with bright eyes and gave another cheerful bark. The reaction was immediate. The Vexarians jumped to their feet, mandibles spread wide in what looked like alarm. 2 of them reached for weapons at their sides. "What is this creature?" Zoltak demanded, backing away. "Is this some kind of attack?" "No," Greg said, rushing forward and scooping up the dog. "This is Max. He's my emotional support animal. He must have gotten out of my quarters. I'm so sorry." Susan closed her eyes briefly, fighting back anger. Pets were strictly forbidden on diplomatic missions, especially first contact situations. Greg had broken one of the most basic rules. The Vexarians huddled together, speaking quickly in their clicking language. Their posture was defensive, almost afraid. Finally, Zoltak turned back to the humans. "You bring unknown beasts to a peace meeting," he said, his voice cold. "Perhaps this shows your true intentions." "No, please," Susan tried to explain. "This is just a domestic animal, completely harmless." Zoltak's yellow eyes narrowed. "We will test your claims. Prepare for combat demonstration. Show these soft creatures our might." The other Vexarians chittered in agreement, their postures becoming aggressive. Susan and Greg exchanged worried glances. The first human-Vexarian diplomatic contact was quickly turning into a disaster, all because of one small furry dog. 3 days after the battle for Earth, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. For the first time, humans weren't just observers, they were the guests of honor. Ambassador Linda Ramirez stood before the gathered alien representatives. She was a small woman with a quiet voice. But today every being in the massive chamber listened carefully to her words. "Humanity will join your fight," she told them, looking each council member in the eye. "But we will do so as equals, not as observers or second-class members." The council leaders looked at each other. They had no choice, and they knew it. One by one, they voted. This time, the vote was unanimous. Earth would become a full member of the Galactic Council immediately. In the weeks that followed, human engineers began working alongside council technicians. It was not always easy. Many council military officers refused to use crude human weapons at first. "I will not put such barbaric devices on my ship," Admiral Zeal of the Tulaxians declared. But after his fleet lost another battle against the Draxus, he changed his mind quickly. On the human space station orbiting Mars, Newly promoted Commodore Laura Miller watched as alien engineers studied her ship's railguns and missile systems. "It's strange," she said to Admiral Johnson as they observed the work. "6 months ago, they were laughing at these weapons. Now they're trying to copy them." Admiral Johnson nodded. Sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best ones. Across the room, Admiral Thrix was working with Lieutenant Commander Alan West, the blue-skinned alien who had once dismissed human questions about kinetic weapons now asked endless questions about them. "If we modify your railgun design to work with our power systems," Thrix was saying, "we could increase its range by at least 40%. West smiled. "And if we combine it with your targeting systems, we could make it even more accurate." Together, they designed a new kind of shield, one that could stop both energy weapons and physical projectiles. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than either human or council shields alone. 2 months after the first attack, the war was still going badly for the council. Many worlds had fallen to the Draxis, who kept pushing deeper into council space. But now, a new force was ready to fight back. Near the human colony world of New Eden, the first joint human council battle group prepared to meet the Draxis. 10 council ships and 5 human vessels moved into formation. Each council ship now carried human-designed kinetic weapons alongside their energy beams. Captain Roy Coleman of the EDF Valiant spoke to the combined fleet. "Remember your training. Hit them with everything we've got. Energy weapons and kinetic projectiles together. Don't give them time to adapt." The Draxis fleet appeared right on schedule. They were confident after their many victories against council forces. Their shields were ready for the weak energy weapons that had failed to harm them before. They weren't ready for what came next. The human ships fired first, a barrage of high-speed tungsten rods that tore through the front line of Draxis ships. Before the Draxis could recover, the council ships fired their new weapons, a combination of energy beams and physical projectiles that overwhelmed the enemy defenses. For the first time, the Draxis were forced to retreat. On the command ship, human and alien officers cheered together. It was a small victory, but an important one. The tide of the war was beginning to turn. Back on Earth, the council representatives who had once mocked human weapons now raised glasses in a toast to their new allies. No one was laughing at human weapons anymore. Instead, they were grateful for them. And this was just the beginning. As the war with the Draxis continued, more alien races began to study human history. What they found both frightened and fascinated them. "Your people have fought so many wars," said Zine of the Zilurians as he studied Earth's military archives. "More than all council races combined." Captain Eric Howard nodded. "We learned the hard way that peace isn't always possible. Sometimes you have to fight to protect what matters." Captain Howard was leading a special mission, a team of humans and council special forces tasked with infiltrating a key Draxis command station. The team included elite soldiers from 4 different alien races, each with their own style of fighting. As their small ship approached the Draxis station, Howard briefed the team one last time. "Remember, the Draxis won't expect a direct assault. Their security is focused on detecting ships, not small teams like ours." The alien commandos looked uncertain. They were used to elegant, non-lethal combat techniques, stunning enemies, disabling systems, and avoiding direct confrontation. "We will attempt to disable their commanders without harm," said Kelvar, the Noraxian team leader. His silver skin shimmered in the dim light. Howard shook his head. "That's not how this mission works. We get in, we take out anyone who gets in our way, we get the intelligence, and we get out. No hesitation." The aliens were quiet, but they nodded. They had seen enough of the war to know that sometimes the human way was necessary. The assault began at 200 hours, station time. Howard's team cut through the outer hull and entered the Draxis command station undetected. For the first 10 minutes, everything went according to plan. Then they were spotted. A Draxis security team rounded the corner, weapons ready. Before the aliens on Howard's team could react, the humans moved. Howard and his second-in-command, Sergeant Lisa Wu, fired their weapons in one smooth motion. The Draxis guards fell before they could raise the alarm. Kelvar stared at Howard, his alien eyes wide. "You didn't even try to stun them." "No time," Howard replied, reloading his weapon. "We complete the mission. That's all that matters now." As they pushed deeper into the station, more Draxis soldiers appeared. The human team members fought with brutal efficiency. No wasted motion, no hesitation, no mercy. The alien commandos watched in a mixture of horror and admiration before joining the fight themselves. In the central data core, Howard set the charges while Wu and the others held off the Draxis reinforcements. "Download complete," Howard said, pocketing the small data device. Time to go. Their escape was as violent as their entry. By the time they reached their ship, half the team was wounded, but they had what they came for: detailed information about Draxis fleet movements and command structure. Later, aboard the human carrier U.S. Freedom, the alien commandos watched as human doctors treated their wounds. "I have never seen such fighting," Kelvar said to Howard. "My people train for centuries in combat arts, but we avoid killing if possible." Howard checked his own bandaged arm. "Humans don't have centuries. We have to be effective right away. In war, that often means being lethal." The information they recovered led to Operation Thunderstrike, a coordinated attack on 3 major Draxis staging areas. During the planning session, Galactic, the same Vorax who had mocked human weapons during first contact, spoke up. "I must admit something to you, General Barnes," he said to the human commander. "When we first met your kind, I thought your ways were primitive and brutal. Now I see there was wisdom in them. We had forgotten what real war is like." General Nickel Barnes nodded. "Sometimes the best weapon isn't the most advanced. It's the one that works." The operation was launched the next day. Human-designed weapons caused massive damage to Draxis infrastructure. For the first time since the war began, the Draxis were on the defensive. The human way of war was turning the tide. And across the galaxy, the meaning of the phrase "fighting like humans" changed forever. 1 year after the first Draxis attack, representatives from Earth and the Galactic Council gathered aboard the newly built United Earth ship Liberty. The massive ship floated in space near Earth, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. Inside the grand meeting hall, hundreds of beings from 17 alien races sat alongside human delegates. Commander Jack Nelson, who had led the first diplomatic mission, stood at attention near the main stage. He remembered how the council races had mocked human weapons during that first meeting. No one was mocking now. President Diane Russell stepped forward to sign the Treaty of Saul. Her pen moved smoothly across the paper. Humans still use paper for important documents, another primitive tradition the aliens now respected. "With this signature," she said, "Earth formally joins the Galactic Council as a full member with special status as military advisors to all council races." The alien representatives stood and applauded. Even Galactic, the Vorax who had once been the loudest to laugh at human weapons, clapped his scaled hands together in respect. Later, at the celebration dinner, Admiral Johnson found himself speaking with a group of alien military leaders. "I still don't understand," said a Tulaxian commander. "Why did your people keep such old-fashioned weapons when you could have developed energy technology like ours?" Admiral Johnson took a sip of his drink before answering. "Humanity never stopped preparing for the worst because we know our own nature. We kept our primitive weapons not because we couldn't make better ones, but because we understood something important." "What was that?" asked the alien. "That conflict rarely follows the rules you expect. The most dangerous weapon isn't the most advanced. It's the one your enemy thinks isn't worth worrying about." Across the room, Captain Laura Miller was showing a group of young alien officers the plans for a new type of ship, one that combined Council energy technology with human kinetic weapon systems. "We call it a hybrid destroyer," she explained. "It can fight in ways neither of our civilizations could manage alone." The Draxis War continued for 2 more years. Each month, the combined human council forces pushed the enemy back further. The Draxis, who had counted on the council's technological arrogance, had no answer for this new combined approach to warfare. 5 years after the war ended, human military academies became the most respected training centers in the galaxy. Young officers from all council races competed for spots to learn what was now called human-style warfare. In the Grand Council Hall on Centaurus Prime, a special museum display was created. Behind a clear case sat a simple railgun, the same type that had fired the first shot against the Draxis flagship. Next to it, a small sign read, "Sometimes the old ways are best." Commander Nelson, now Admiral Nelson, visited the museum with his wife and young son. As they stood before the display, his son looked up at him. "Dad, is it true the aliens used to think our weapons were silly?" Nelson smiled and ruffled his son's hair. They did. But they learned an important lesson that day. Never laugh at something just because it's different or seems old-fashioned. "Did we teach them that lesson?" his son asked. "We did," Nelson replied, "and it changed the galaxy forever." As they walked through the rest of the museum, Nelson noticed how things had changed. Displays about human history now stood alongside the histories of the oldest council races. Earth weapons were studied with the same respect as advanced alien technology. Humans and aliens worked together, each bringing their unique strengths to the alliance. The galaxy had mocked human weapons, until the first shot fired changed everything. And in the vastness of space, the combined fleets of humanity and the Council continued their patrol, ready for whatever might come next.